writers, Stace here and welcome to another topic video. When I did Neil Gaiman's Masterclass, he spoke about his rules for writers and they really resonated with me. So today I'm going to take you through his rules and have a little chat about why I think that they're a great simple list of things to keep in mind for writers. So tell me in the comments if you have any writing rules that you try to live by. I'd love to hear about them. And with that, let's get started. So, Neil Gaiman's rules for writers. Personally, I have said before that there are no rules in writing. You can do what you want so long as you do it well, and I do still believe that. But the reason I appreciated Gaiman's rules for writers was because they were more based in advice than they were based in should and shouldn't. And in fact, he never once uses the word should in these rules. It seems that Gaiman inherited these rules from other writers. He mentions both a writer called Heinlein and Harlan Ellison as the original source of these rules, which he then adopted and added to and now tries to live by. So, rule 1, you have to write. This one seems pretty simple and might make you go, well, yeah. But this is really what it comes down to. Making a start is essential. Starting that journey on the page despite everything that's bothering you. Even if you're scared, even if you're worried about a billion things that will only ever make sense to writers, and even if your confidence is puddled at your feet in a useless pile of mulch. Despite all that, if you want to be a writer, if you want to get your story out there, you need to pick up a pen or sit in front of a keyboard and write. And so many people think that they aren't good enough at writing to be a writer when they've never actually tried to write the story that they've been thinking about for years. But we all start somewhere, and the only way to become good enough to tell your stories is to practice writing. So shovel your excuses inside and take a risk. Take a chance on yourself and start working on your stories. You might cringe, you might doubt and worry and struggle, but you will have made a start. Rule number 2, you have to finish it. Now, next to making a start, this is the most difficult thing. Or is it more difficult? I suppose that really depends on the writer. Some people have no trouble starting, but all the trouble finishing. Drafts of novels just going round and round for years and years, never finished, always rewritten. Now, I liked this rule because I found it to be true. I had finished lots of short stories and other shorter projects, but finishing my first full novel draft, that was an amazing feeling and one that every writer deserves to have if that's what you're aiming for, and one that many never think that they'll manage. But you learn so much from actually finishing a project. By pushing through and getting a draft out, even if it's only a shadow of the real story that you want to tell. You've created a foundation, something that you can work with, and alongside that, you grow in confidence with each thing that you finish. Once you've finished a draft of a project, you know you can do it again because you've already done it once. And it's really important to keep this in mind. Writing the first full draft of my second novel was almost easier because I'd already done it before and I knew I could do it again. And I will do many more times if I'm lucky. But you are perfectly capable of achieving that too, I promise. So finish things, even if you never touch it again afterwards. Rule number 3, you have to send it to someone who can publish it. If you want to be a successful writer and your goal is eventual traditional publication, then you have to send your stories out to the people who can make that happen for you. Sending your work out on any kind of submission, posting online, agents, magazines, competitions, is scary as hell. And sometimes the anxiety around these things is so intense for people that they never do it. And they never send that story to a magazine. They never send that manuscript to an agent for consideration. Things just sit around, shelved or forgotten. This is usually for fear of rejection, which is a big bad word for writers, and yet it is an inevitable and integral and unavoidable part of the craft. So honestly, we just have to get on with it and stop making rejection the be-all and end-all of writing. It depends on far too many things for it to mean what many of us think rejection means, which is that our writing is bad. Because that's not what it means at all. It could mean that there's no room at the inn being the magazine issues or agent lists. It could mean that they've recently represented or printed similar material, or it just may simply not be their cup of tea and it might not excite them. It is the same as you reading a book and just not really liking it that much. It's just that your work is the thing that someone else is making that decision about. And that's fine to be hesitant about that, that's normal. But one person's opinion doesn't turn into a fact about a book. So take the risk and send something somewhere. Be brave. Rule number 4, don't rewrite apart from an editorial request unless that request compromises the story, and then defend it. Now I guess this one is a little more complicated, but I do think it's another good one. The point of it, in my view, is that once you've decided that a piece is finished and you've sent it out, stick by that decision. Don't just keep rewriting it each time it doesn't get picked up. Don't get stuck in that cycle of the same story over and over again. Now, deciding when a work is finished is difficult for many writers, and this is because of the slow, steady improvement that we're always experiencing as we continue to write and edit and rework. You start a book and finish it completely in 2 years, but by now you're a better writer. Surely you're going to have to rewrite the entire thing to reflect that, which is going to take you about a year, but then you're a better writer again. Do you kind of see where this is going? So decide when something is finished, and when it's the best that you alone can make it, stick to it. Editorial requests, of course, can be a valid reason to revisit a book, but looking at the side note, you don't have to take in all these changes. I feel if you feel that a request compromises the story or some key element of the work, then you can stand your ground and defend it. Too many writers believe that they have no choice but to implement agents' or editors' suggestions, but the work is yours and you can choose to explain and defend your decision not to do so. So stick by your stories. Rule number 5, when it comes back, send it out again. Getting up when you've been knocked down, this is such a simple idea and yet a very difficult one for a lot of writers. In such a big industry where everything is subject to personal taste and a mountain of other market-driven factors, it's tough. But when your work is sent back with a rejection, don't reject it yourself as well. Send it somewhere else. Send it out again, a new chance or a new opportunity. Also, don't take it personally. Feel how you need to feel about it and then just get right back to it. You're going to need to send things out many times to find people who love your story as much as you do. Speaking personally now though, I think there does come a point where you have to reconsider if a project needs work. If you've sent a book to over 50 agents or magazines and not had a single full request or offer for publication, then you might need to ask yourself if there's a reason why it isn't quite pulling people in enough, not quite hooking them and making them want to know more. Ask yourself if there's anything you can do to improve that. Now, whether you shelve the project for a while or get some distance or workshop it and then and there, I don't think endlessly sending the same thing out without these considerations to be a good move, as it may encourage you not to consider the possibility that the project needs a little more work on your side. And I think there is always a stopping point. It's just up to you to decide the balance of being persistent and knowing when to reassess things. The 6th rule was not part of the original set of Heinlein or Ellison's rules. Gaiman added the 6th rule himself, and it is to start the next thing. Now, when you've sent out your finished project, instead of sitting around biting your nails or wondering if your work is good enough, move on. Just start the next thing, try something new, and keep on working so that you'll have something else to send out and start the process again. Keep writing, keep finishing, sending out and starting the next thing. Working on other things means that you're continuing to learn and create and expanding your portfolio and your creative mind. Now, it won't always be the first work that you write that's the first one to be published. In fact, that's rather rare. So it stands to reason that you're going to need some more works. So send out one project, start another, and keep that momentum going. And those are Neil Gaiman's rules for writers. To recap, you have to write, you have to finish things, you have to send it to someone who can publish it, don't rewrite apart from an editorial request, but defend requests you don't agree with. When it comes back, send it out again, and number 6, start the next thing. So, what are your thoughts on these rules for writers? Do any of them resonate with you, or are there any that you disagree with? Of course, the relevance of these rules will depend on your goals and aims as a writer and the reasons why you write in the first place, but they certainly gave me something to think about. So that's it for this video, and as always, the next one is going to be coming in 2 weeks' time. There should be quite a few extra videos coming out in the first few weeks of December, as my channel will be turning 1 on December 1st, which is a little bit crazy, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're doing well and that your projects are behaving for you. Keep on scribbling, and I will see you all soon. Bye!